you to sell the book because I want people to buy this book. Guys, y'all need to read this. Listeners, y'all need to read this. This is, I'm so convinced, and this listening to Jim talk about this again, excites me to realize that so many things, not just in American history. I mean, obviously, I'm an American patriot. My expertise was the Revolutionary period, so this resonates with me. But I see it as somebody who wants to see these biblical truths transplanted to other nations so that they may flourish as well. And the wars
Yes.
that are out there are coming from lack, not abundance. The conflicts, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Ukraine and Russia, I mean, it doesn't matter. That's a universal. Where there is lack, there will be violence, there will be warfare. So the answer is not to give away everything, but the answer is to promote human flourishing. So I'm all about how do we package this thinking, which is original with God, obviously, but how do we package it and export it to other places in the world so that men and women and young people can, in fact, flourish? You go back to your words. Jim, I know you thought about this. How do we do that? I know you don't have the whole answer, but
Let
how do you, and you do think about this because it's what you do every day.
let me go back a little ways and build to that.
Okay.
Um, Thinking in terms of the revolutionary period, the colonial period before that, the founding period, and the American history. And what was something that was commonly in the background of all the founding fathers and leaders who weren't at that level, but were their equivalents leadership at the state level of the patriot side. Um, the great uh, uh, the Great Awakening
Mm-hmm.
about those what 1720 to 40 or 30 to
Yeah.
50, so
Yeah.
in the
Early to mid
earlier
1700s.
part of
Exactly.
the 18th century. But that means they would have been affected by it. Either they would be old enough to remember it, or their parents would have. I mean, it was new enough, and people at the during the Great Awakening and uh, thereafter, um, you had vast numbers of people um, reading published Bibles. Everybody, the Bible itself was uh, the premier book on anybody's home from the frontier to the high society of Philadelphia, New York, and Boston and Charleston. Um, but you've got that biblical framework of society, or generally Christian society, and so the my my friend Daniel Dreisbach at American University's wonderful book, which I cite and quote from in To Invent is Divine, is called Reading the Bible with the Founders. And that's
Mm.
where I was clued into, you know, that yeah, the vine and fig tree metaphor from
Yeah.
scripture, that was one, if not the favorite of George Washington's to employ. Um,
Uh,
and just the frequency of quoting the scripture in the founding, Dreisbach finds that outweighs citations of John Locke or any of the other um, uh, leading lights of Western thought at that period. Um, we hear of a bunch of important names, but none of them was cited by the founders and their writings as much as the Bible. And so that led me to look at the fact that if that if that kind of being steeped in a Christian Bible oriented society for years influenced the thinking of the founders to that degree, then that the Great Awakening had quite a bit to do with the founders
mm.
writing the Constitution in the way they did. and that would include Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the Constitution about uh, the discoveries and writings of inventors and authors. That model was put into the acts, the first patent laws and copyright laws of 1790, and then the next iteration of patent law of patent law act of 1793, and then the 1836 patent act. So those were the three major reforms, but they kept the center of creativity and ownership and democratization and merit-based reward, the merit of the technology, the device, the invention that was made, not the merit of the high society or low society of the inventor.
I guess contrary to current propaganda, right? It really was democratized in the very beginning, and still
Yes.
is when it's all said and done. It still is that is the fundamental root of this. So how do we? Is the way that we get this abroad? Is it just to? And I'm going to oversimplify it, but is it to come back to the scriptures? Is it to promote the reading of scriptures and the absorption of a biblical worldview? Something, is it that basic?
That certainly helps. That would certainly help, both domestically and abroad. The the thing started to go off track in the progressive era, and then through the 20th century, we had a lot of invention going on, and the pace of patenting was up, but the system was becoming skewed, and the antitrust creation of antitrust laws had something to do with weakening the security, how secure patent rights truly were. And so we suffered for decades there. The 20th century, 1980, we had a few years where things righted the ship a little bit with several landmark laws. But around 1990, we were trying to help export our patent system model to other countries, and a lot of them adopted parts of it. The irony is that at this point, we've weakened our own patent system over the past 20 to 30 years. And meanwhile, China, who's got the huge industrial base that we say we want to return, well, they copied a lot of the pro patent rights, pro invention rights facets of our patent system as originally had back in the, say, late 19th century, early 20th century.
So let's come back to the question. You mentioned China, and I know we're going to run out of time here, so we can't dig every hole here. But we all think about China as a thief nation. That's not really accurate. I mean, in some ways, all nations have stolen from other nations, but China is an incredibly creative nation, incredible innovative nation, and they have a higher respect for property rights, and I would say property rights, certain property rights, than other countries, than we may even think that they give them credit for. How is that? I guess I'll ask you this question, Jim. So, has that been part of the secret to their own economic power? Is that they had a certain level of the linkage between creativity and ownership and rights? I mean, we all say they're communists. They're actually not. I mean, the truth is they're not a communist nation. They're a totalitarian nation or a single party nation, but they're not really a communist nation the way we think of it. how would you explain their success and their wobbliness right now? Is it all tied to what you're talking about?
Um, Not all, but in some part, yes. China's growth, I mean, it has, as China and China's regime has long been in the theft business and continues to be just outright theft and economic uh, um, sabotage, surveillance theft, all that stuff uh, from from pilfering trade secrets or other things. It's it does so electronically, it does so digitally, it does so by human means, direct humans picking up, physically in a factory or somewhere and taking things.